Okay.
Yeah.
So the first question is, how long has EMF or EHS impacted you?
I first became electrically hypersensitive when I was 23 years old. So we're looking at 22 years now. It's a long
Mhm.
time. Yeah, 22 years I've been electrically hypersensitive.
Okay. And what were the symptoms of EMF or EHS that impacted you the most?
So the from the start, the one that impacts me the most is the tinnitus type symptoms that I get from wireless transmitters. So I get like a buzzing, clicking in my ears, like a high pitched whining, and also like an ache. They hurt my ears. So that tells me when I'm around sort of um, some of the high frequencies in the microwave spectrum. So that still is the most debilitating symptom that I have. But the other thing that I had and I have to shield against this is that I my fingers get really sort of burny and tingly when I'm touching something that has a high electric field. So
Mhm.
that includes a keyboard, mouse, a smartphone screen, any touch screens at all, using an ATM, stuff like that. So I have especially have to use this kind of glove, which is like an electrically shielded glove
Mhm.
before I'm touching anything like that. Otherwise, those symptoms will come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what frequencies do you think impacted you the most? Was it the introduction of things like 5G?
No, because I mean, 20 years ago, we were still looking at 3G. So, yes, uh, I would say that the frequencies in the microwave spectrum, radio frequency, in the microwave spectrum, including at the time 3G antennas and now 4G and obviously now 5G. But also stuff like I noticed that I was getting, I call it zapped, when I get the ear thing. I was getting symptoms around microwave burglar alarm sensors as well, and any type of sensors that use that spectrum. And of course, now the ubiquitous Wi-Fi is something that I also pick up, which is getting much harder to escape. Even in my house here now, picking up the Wi-Fi and wireless devices from the neighbours, including their printers, their washing machine, anything that has a Wi-Fi enabled transmitter. I can generally pick it up if I'm fairly close to it. So for me, the way to mitigate that is to get distance from those transmitters, which is really quite difficult. So my own home here, I have apart from sometimes putting on my cell phone for work and to uh, to be in touch with the school because I have a 6-year-old son. Apart from my cell phone, which I normally keep on airplane mode, I don't have any wireless devices here, so they're all disabled.
Mhm.
So I've had to go around literally disabling all the televisions now, obviously modems, burglar alarms, anything wireless. I've disabled inside the home, but I can't control the stuff that's coming in from neighbours and the surrounding environment, which is tricky.
Do you think EHS is impacting a lot of people?
I think it is. I think it's on a sliding scale. I think some people are very, very sensitive in terms of being allergic, like myself. So the body has an allergic response to an invader. So for whatever reason, I'm so sensitive that my body is perceiving these wireless frequencies as an invader, as an invasive thing like a virus, and so it's having a reaction to that. So I have an allergic response. I think that on the spectrum, though, I think everyone is impacted in some way, whether they know it or not. Some people have more intense symptoms, and some people, have seemingly no symptoms at all. So I do feel from 20 years of having this condition and speaking to thousands of others, actually, I do feel that it's looking like it's maybe impacting from allergic responses may be impacting about 10% of people now. Uh, so that's quite a large proportion if you think about it in the modern industrial countries anyway. So about 10%.
Mhm.
And it's increasing all the time because I'm constantly hearing of new people that are having symptoms. And as the proliferation of the electrification of the world uh, continues, really.
Do you think manufacturers like the manufacturers of equipment of telecoms or Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
are they aware of the symptoms that this technology is causing?
That's quite tricky to answer. I mean, I think they must be because they are, competent people that have a scientific background and they know that how the technology works. The technology works by, um, encoding the radio waves, information carrying waves. So I think they, on some level, some of the companies obviously must know because I'm sure they get complaints from people like me. But that is to say, um, that's not to say that they're going to do anything about it. So I think that'd have to be quite strange that they haven't come across this as a phenomenon, and that some people are sensitive. And there've been, from looking at research, there've been people involved in the industry that have become sensitive and have left the industry. So I think there is an awareness there, but like I say, whether they care that it's causing uh, uncomfortable symptoms in some people is a whole other matter because there's a lot of money involved, obviously, from producing these things.
Do you think EHS impacts mental health?
100%, 100%. I mean, just speaking personally, when you become sensitive, I mean, my life before I had this was fairly normal. I was happy-go-lucky, very sort of had a zest for life. I had no problems at all. Great social life. Literally, from the moment you start having symptoms, you have to start removing yourself from the modern world. And so, mentally, there's two things. One is the isolation that you experience of having to leave your friends, leave the city, leave your life, the technology that you're using, and somehow surviving financially with that. So that there's the impact of the isolation, but also just the condition itself, being in pain for large parts of the day, and not having a respite, not having any safe place to feel that you're safe, to feel that you can relax and be comfortable in your own skin.
Mhm.
It's just such a horrible feeling. I can't describe it to people that haven't experienced it because if you're normally allergic to something like, say, you have a nut allergy like peanuts, you know that you're allergic to peanuts, so you avoid the peanuts.
Mhm.
With this condition, you can't avoid it 100%, and it's becoming increasingly impossible to avoid. So you have to basically go through the allergic response day in day out, knowing that things are not going to get better. So the mental health side of that is huge. So and I've suffered tremendously with the struggle of dealing with this condition, and also not the third thing with the mental health is that when you seek medical advice about it, you usually find no answers. You usually find that doctors are not sympathetic, even now, 20 years later. Some of them haven't even heard of the condition. Some of them don't believe you. That's a huge part of it. Not actually being believed that you're having these symptoms
Mhm.
is probably the biggest letdown.
A lot of people we've interviewed have told us this that they get either sent to the psychiatrist that it's not actually these symptoms aren't real or this
Yeah.
and that. But we've also heard that naturopathy, this specific these symptoms are more accepted in naturopathy than conventional medicine.
Yeah, I found that actually. I found that the only way that I've tackled it is to seek out alternative therapies
Mhm.
to maybe not block or change it, but to help your body adjust uh, to these new vibrations. Uh, and that's the biggest thing. So I've become quite disenchanted with the medical establishment. So until they actually realise that this is a huge problem and that start taking us seriously, then I basically just don't talk to the to doctors about it anymore
Mhm.
because I don't want to be ridiculed. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The only sympathetic practitioners are normally alternative
Mhm.
therapists who, like you say, use naturopathy. They might use some form of vibrational energy medicine, and I've had some success with mitigating symptoms over the years, but not total. So I use homeopathy, which I found to be quite helpful, supporting the body in other ways, detoxing the body in other ways, trying to become healthier in other ways. So not tackling the triggers directly, but any therapies that kind of support the body to be stronger, I found to be quite personally helpful.
Have you heard of these Schumann resonance emitters?
Yeah, I have. I have. I had some experiments with them years ago. Um, so when you become sensitive, like electrically hypersensitive, you realize that you can become sensitive to other things as well. So geopathic stresses is something that I know that I'm sensitive to, and I came across. I was researching about the Schumann waves from those days. So I've used some of these devices to mitigate geopathic stress, which seemed to be quite helpful. But those devices to mitigate radio frequencies may be less helpful. If it's the kind of devices that I'm thinking that you're talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What can we do to prevent EHS? Is there any specifics that have helped you out the most?
Uh, like I said earlier, the main thing is distance from. I mean, there's various wavelengths that people are more allergic to. So I seem to be more allergic to the radio frequencies,
Mhm.
so wireless transmitters. So the best thing is as much distance as you can from the transmitters. So I find that if I go into an environment which is very heavily saturated, I struggle more. So I seek to go into the countryside. So I'm now don't live in London. I live outside London. There was 15 years where I lived right in the countryside, in the middle of nowhere, and I was a lot better actually then. But for work reasons, I had to sort of come back to the southeast of the UK, and it's since coming back, combined with the proliferation of 5G and other antennas, that I've become really quite ill again. So I would say that distance is number one, distance from the transmitters, and awareness of how electricity works. So an awareness of I would recommend anyone to hire or to purchase some metering systems. So I have about 3 or 4 meters that I have that monitor different kind of wavelengths. So I was then able to do a survey of my own home to find out if there was anything inside the home that was transmitting. That helped me a lot because I was aware of my immediate environment and able to turn off what I could. And also when I travel, I take the meters with me. So I find that that's really helpful, an awareness of what's actually there. But in terms of other things to help with it, do you know what? I have to tell you, and it's quite disappointing. I've tried so many things over the years that companies tell you, try this, try that. And I found that none of those so-called devices
Mhm.
seem to help or seem to work. And that is just me as a guinea pig having tried them. And
Mhm.
I'm honestly trying them for, and I've been up to King's College in London. They did I don't know if you know, but about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they asked for electrically sensitive people to come and be tested. So they would fire off different sort of transmitters and ask you to record when you felt them. And I obviously got 100% correct. So I knew from that it's not in my mind. It's a real phenomenon. So I had that sort of verified. But in terms of mitigating things that help. Um, the other thing that I would say um, is to actually look at shielding. So
Hmm.
if you have your bedroom where you spend the most time, try and get to shield that room to the best that you can. So, for instance, my bedroom, I have created almost a Faraday cage.
Hmm.
I've actually painted carbon paint, so very sort of really expensive carbon paint on the walls, the ceilings, the floors. I've enclosed it like that. I've put special material against the windows that block the frequencies, and I've metered and monitored that. I now know that I have a safe room. And sure enough, my symptoms in the bedroom are great. And I've earthed all that, grounded it. You've got to make sure that you ground all the energy as well. So I've got one safe room that I know that throughout the day I'm getting my symptoms becoming sensitized and feeling bad, but I know that at night I can actually recover. So I would say that that's the one bit of advice I would have for other electrically sensitive people is to look at your bedroom environment where you spend maybe 9 hours a day and try to shield it against incoming transmissions. And I found that since I shielded my bedroom, I know that I get to sleep. I can have some sort of recovery time. And then when I wake up in the morning and get up, go to work, then I start feeling the symptoms again. But
Hmm.
at least I've got my bedroom sort of safe. Any other types of devices? Honestly, I've spent possibly 60, 70,000 pounds in the last 20 years on products, going from sort of miracle cure, sort of, things that you take, you ingest, to devices that are supposed to change the frequencies as they're coming in, things you wear, body pendants, things like that. Also clothing that is claimed to block it out. And I have personally found, this is not to say that others won't find this helpful, but I personally found them not to be helpful in my case. And also there's been the financial impact of having spent quite a bit of money on things that haven't worked for me. So I would be really careful to recommend anything to anyone that they have to spend a lot of money on, because there are some solutions that might not have to cost the world. So I'd say shield the bedroom, invest in good, high quality metering equipment, and then and looking into potentially, like you say, naturopathy, homeopathy, muscle testing. Work with a therapist that works with the energy of the body. But I can't recommend anyone in particular because there's so many people out there that you just have to find somebody that you connect with to work. But as far as devices and jewelry, pendants, crystals, anything like that, I have not found helpful. I've got to admit.
And what about EMF protective clothing?
Well, with me personally, I've tried quite a bit of the clothing, and it does block signals. But I found that unless my whole body is enclosed, i.e., in a, I found the canopy is quite helpful. So the canopies you put over the bed.
Hmm.
Um, so unless the whole body is enclosed in the material and then grounded and earthed properly, that's crucial. I found the clothing not to be personally helpful. I haven't been able to detect the difference in. So say I've worn certain hats, scarves, sort of clothes. I haven't perceived with my own symptoms and my body. I haven't perceived the symptoms getting better when I'm wearing the clothing. But I have not tested the latest clothing. This was years ago as these products were being developed. I sort of didn't find them helpful. So the bed canopy definitely is another thing I would recommend. You could get, I'm sure you're aware, you can enclose your your bed in a canopy and earth that. That is the one thing that I take everywhere with me when I'm staying in hotels, going abroad, and I can usually get it pretty good, the symptoms, when I'm inside the canopy. But the clothing, less successful for me, I have to say that.
Hmm. Have you heard of scalar waves?
I have heard of them. I must admit, I can't recall the research right now, but it's something that is on my radar, scalar. Do you want to let me know a little bit about that, or?
Yeah, so scalar waves are another form of well, uh, a form of waves. They're also called electric longitudinal waves,
Okay,
and the human body actually naturally emits these scalar waves.
okay, right,
So they're a lot safer than electromagnetic waves, although the science industry, well, the science community is still conducting research and development into this area. It
right,
was first discovered by Nikola Tesla in the 1800s.
okay. I mean, Tesla, yeah, I got a lot of respect for him.
You know how the human body, have you ever felt this type of a deja vu or like a connectivity with somebody? So
Yeah,
that's another way of explaining scalar waves, that the human body, if we take it as an instrument, naturally is able to sort of communicate in that way.
right, absolutely.
Hmm.
I mean, I 100% agree that I think the part of the problem here is with certain people like me is that you actively are an antenna yourself.
Mhm.
So, I mean, whereas for millions of years we didn't have any of these man-made electromagnetic transmitters, you were able to perceive the energy of the earth, the energy of plants, other beings. You're able to perceive that subtle energy. And some people were just naturally more sensitive with that. I believe that I'm sensitive like that. And I do believe that the body can act like an antenna, so it can receive and emit as well. So what you're saying about the scalar waves makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
What further research do you think needs to be completed on EMF? I mean, if there are so many people who are sort of indicating that electromagnetic, man-made electromagnetic frequencies are harmful. So
Yeah.
what is this industry, the telecom industry, the Wi-Fi industry doing about this?
Yeah. Well, I don't see that they're doing anything. I mean, what the studies that they have apparently commissioned, um, obviously there's a vested interest to find that the products are safe. Now, what does safe mean? I mean, they refer to outdated principles like the thermal heating. So, they'll say, well, if the microwaves are not heating the body, how can they affect the body? So they're only looking at the thermal effect. They're not looking at any other subtle effects, which there may be. They have a vested interest, the industry, not to find that these things are harmful because the potential lawsuits are off the chart. So I don't trust the industry at all. Uh, I don't think that they will commission any any research into the harmful effects that their products are bringing on a certain proportion of the population. I think where we can appeal to is our own like health protection agencies. So here in the UK, you've got the health protection agency, and I was in touch with them many years ago when I first became sensitive, and they were just reeling off outdated data about the thermal effects, um, biological effects of this form of weaponry. Um, they were not interested in non-thermal effects at all. So, I was very depressed about that, that I felt that the Health Protection Agency wasn't actually listening or taking this seriously at all. And even the World Health Organization, one of the president years ago was a Norwegian lady called, I think, Gro Harlem. I can't remember the exact name. She herself became sensitive, and she had to very quickly resign her post from the president of the WHO, and she disappeared because she couldn't cope with the technology herself, and that was the last we heard of her. So I think that unless you have people in power that you know that either have the condition themselves or loved ones, that they haven't really got an interest in uh, in sort of commissioning work to find out potential health effects. Because the other thing we have mentioned is that there's just so much money involved. When they auctioned off the spectrum here in the UK, every time they auction off another spectrum, so they're auctioning off the 3G, the 4G, they make so many billions of pounds in revenue that there is no way that they're going to look for potential problems because of the loss of revenue for the for the economy, for the government, for these companies. And it just seems to me now there's this extreme drive towards the electrification of the world, and it's been bought in on the bandwagon of environmental savings. And I feel that the proliferation of electric cars, of upgrading all the electricity grid, of all these so-called energy-saving devices, it's making people like me a lot iller, and it's bringing more people ill into you know, that have these symptoms. Unfortunately, when you get ill with these things, you're either too embarrassed about judgment and you don't talk about them, or you just go and hide away somewhere in the country and sort of try to switch off from engaging in modern life. So that's why you don't hear about it's not heard about as often as it should be. Because when you start to struggle with these things, you kind of switch off. You start using your computer less. You usually quit your job like I did, and just try and hide out, just try and get away from it. And I think that's part of the problem is that it's really hard to bring attention to these things unless you're a journalist with that has a specific, like a traditional old school journalist that actually really wants to find out what's going on here.
Hmm.
And I've had quite a few articles over the years. I can send you through on your email
Hmm.
some of the articles that I've had published about me,
Yeah.
or that I've been involved in, which you might find interesting, with good journalism from The Guardian and the Engineer magazine and others. And that is all part of raising awareness in the public consciousness of that this is a problem for some people.
We actually started a petition some time ago, and that got taken down by change.org, stating that the information wasn't accurate, that there isn't something called EHS. But
Right.
even if the people who want to bring awareness of this, it sort of gets taken down. Even if we do an ad campaign on Google, they sort
Right.
of state it as this cause isn't real. Now, that's a very big problem as well.
It's a big problem because you're coming up against big tech. You're coming up against these corporations that have a vested interest. So, I mean, at the moment, as long as they can claim that we're crazy and this thing doesn't exist and that it's all in our mind,
Mhm.
um, they carry on to make money. They carry on proliferating like I say, the electrification of the world. This has never happened before. Millions of years we haven't had. And all of a sudden, in this drive for the environment, to come off fossil fuels, we've decided to electrify everything, every single square uh, meter of the world, which is causing, the sensitive people like myself, huge trauma. I mean, I've been suicidal about it. I'll be honest with you. At certain times of my life, I just thought there's no hope because, like you say, you come up, you try to raise awareness with your campaigns, and you get shut down time and time again. If you stick your head above the parapet, you usually get shouted down, usually get ridiculed. And that's why I do a lot less work raising awareness than I used to do. I used to be quite active and going to my MP and, trying to campaign and raise awareness. And it got quite nasty. Got quite nasty with people trying to claim that I was crazy. And it's the easiest thing in the world just to say, this guy's crazy, don't listen to him. But the more voices that there are, I mean, I am not lying about my symptoms.
Mhm.
I've also had them verified, King's College London, independently,
Mhm.
that I can detect these things. I don't want to have this problem. I want to get back to my life, but unfortunately, it's becoming increasingly harder to just to exist with the pain.
One of
Uh,
the films that we actually created a film to, well, and we sort of encoded this specific cause into that film. So it doesn't
okay.
really get taken down by conventional media. That
Right.
it's have you watched Better Call Saul?
No, what's this? Better Call Saul.
That's actually a TV show on Netflix.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
And the creators of the TV show, they sort of had one character who was EHS. So
Oh,
that
right.
was sort of accepted by the public just because it was encoded in the TV show.
I see. I see. I like
And
it.
we made a film called The Silver Lining, which is available to watch for free on our website, fique.org.
Okay.
And that's sort of around the similar principles of sort of encoding this specific cause. So it reaches a lot more people.
Yeah. I think that is a really clever way forward to actually almost stealth it into the public consciousness because there was something on. Are you in the UK, by the way, or the
At the
US?
moment, yes.
Okay. Um, there was something here in the UK on television the other night where one of the characters starts having tinnitus, exactly the same symptoms as me, and starts to associate it with some of the local transmitters. So that was great because that, um, again, people are watching those TV programs. They're at least learning about it through TV shows, which is how people learn about stuff. So I do feel that that is a way forward. I'm glad to hear that you're looking at ways to raise awareness like that because I just feel that there will be a tipping point with the public that it will become more socially acceptable to talk about. Um, because I mean, everyone I talk to about my condition, just locally, they've either had symptoms themselves or they know someone. They say, "Oh yeah, I can't hold my phone to my ear; it gives me burning." So people, once you raise the awareness, they're like, "Oh yeah, my uncle can't use a keyboard because there's people out there exactly like me that are struggling. Maybe not to the level that it takes over your whole life, but I think that hopefully there'll be a natural tipping point when enough people become sensitized or affected that we can't be ignored anymore, and then the authorities will actually have to do something about it. I mean, I've heard that in Sweden and Germany that it's accepted that EHS is a real thing, and you can actually potentially go on disability benefits for it,
Mhm.
which is a good thing.
Actually stated on, well, they've started recognizing it on the WHO website as well.
Have they really? Okay, well that's good news. That's good news because I mean, last when when I was a photographer in London, and all of a sudden I lost my, had to leave my job, leave London. Huge financial implications there, and I couldn't get any benefits at all because it wasn't recognised in the UK. I mean, that's another layer of the problem is that if you can't work in an office environment, or if you can't work somewhere where there's Wi-Fi, which is ubiquitous everywhere, you suffer financially. And when my wife was alive, she was the breadwinner of the family, so she kind of kept us going for many many years. And sadly, she died very young of an unrelated cause, breast cancer. And since with that loss of income and loss of partner, I've really spiraled down as I'm sort of on my own with a 6-year-old boy, trying to work, trying to earn enough money to survive. And these are the things that affect the mental health.
If you don't mind me asking, what area do you currently sort of, what's your area of industry for your
Yeah,
business?
sure, sure. Yeah. So when I when I became ill with this, I obviously I left my job as a photographer, studio photographer, and I sort of retrained myself as an artist, painter,
Hmm.
illustrator. So I use a separate name for that, funny enough, which is why I said to you in the email. But I work from home, creating artwork, paintings, illustrations from a studio. It doesn't quite make enough money to survive, so I also I'm a TV and film extra, so I I'm a freelancer like that, so I get hired by certain films to sort of work in the background there, which gives me some money, and I also do a little bit of work still with a photographer friend of mine when he gets really busy. But I find that if I have to go out to work like that, inevitably it'll be in London. It makes me so ill that it takes me a couple of days to kind of recover.
Hmm.
So I don't work as much as I need to and have to because of the physiological effects of going into um, a studio, an office, a film set. Everything's wireless now. They used to shoot normal film. Everything used to be plugged in. Now every single device on a film set will actually have transmitters on, and everything is wirelessly transmitted. The film goes wirelessly to the lights are all connected wirelessly. There's a huge amount of Wi-Fi as well. So it's getting increasingly difficult for me to do the film work.
Hmm.
So I'm left with just trying to make money from my art, which is it's really hard uh, to sell yourself as an artist. Um, so that's how I get by for now. But I'm looking into maybe putting together another uh, case for approaching the DWP again and trying to apply for disability benefit again.
Hmm.
Um, Potentially um, not under an EHS banner, but under a mental health issue.
Okay.
That's just personally something that I'm looking at because I can't quite support myself at the moment. It's causing a lot.
Maybe we can collaborate in those aspects as well, because we also sort of are in works with a film studio, an
Okay.
art gallery, and some other aspects.
Oh wow,
And
that's interesting.
maybe mm, future projects within Fique as well.
Yeah, great, man. I'm very happy to collaborate and bring my skill set. I think it's great that you guys are. As I said, I checked out the before when your colleague let me know about your company. I think it's a great thing. I think you're taking on a lot. You've obviously come across some of the issues around not being believed and trying to get stuff out there, being shut down on social media and stuff like that. But I'm very happy to work with you. Any way I can help with your projects, with shared projects, I'm available. So
Are you based in London at the moment?
yeah, so I'm in a town called Flackwell Heath, which is about half an hour west of London.
Hmm.
So I'm in the southeast. I was on a very small farm in Gloucestershire for many years, but when my wife died, I had to come back to the busy areas in order to work. So this is why I'm finding the problem. But at the moment, I'm sort of half an hour from Heathrow. Um, there's more going on down here, so it's a kind of a compromise. I need to be here for work, but I want to be in the countryside. But so for now, I'm close to London. Yeah,
Okay. I'm also currently based in London at the moment.
great, great, nice.
Um,
It's a great city. I love it. I just wish I could enjoy it more without being in pain.
mm,
I mean, the proliferation of little micro masts and all this street furniture that they're putting in for the 5G is I'm really worried about it because up until the 5G revolution, I was sort of able to cope more with the 4G with the 3G when people just had maybe one or two transmitters in the house, maybe they just had their wireless modem um, and a couple of cell phones. But now, everything is Wi-Fi enabled, um, and it's being sold to the public as easy to install Ringo doorbells, everything, wireless cameras to look at your house, to security. And I'm constantly fighting with my neighbors, trying to sort of say, look, please, they're aware of my situation, but every year they want more technology. They want to stream everything, they want everything faster. So I'm concerned about the future, and I feel that I'm going to have to take my son out of school and go back to the countryside and try and find somewhere that's less intense. But that's a huge move. We're
there are
taking.
some schools that have sort of taken into consideration this specific aspect, although they're in France.
Yeah, I've looked at France, funny enough. I have been looking at France,
Hmm.
looking at sort of different areas. I mean, France is a big move. And since my son's mother died, uh, we have to. We've got a little network here that we rely on, and but I am considering when he's a little bit older about making another move. France, I don't particularly. Some of the things coming out of France, for example, I don't think you're really allowed to refuse a smart meter now. They've got this thing called Linksys, which they are financially penalising anyone that refuses the smart meter in France, more so than the UK. Plus, there's issues around vaccinations because I'm also aware of vaccination damage. So I haven't with my son. He's not unvaccinated, but he's only got certain vaccinations. But in France, if you go to school in France, it's mandatory to have a whole load of vaccinations. So I have been researching actually. France seems to be, even though having said what I've said, still seems to be quite a good country. There's a lot of space. Um, there's quite a lot of understanding around the issue. And also the climate's better. So I'm looking into that as well.
Okay. Have you ever had an EMF survey?
Yes, um, I've had several
Hmm.
uh, in the different houses that I live. I've three, no, twice I got somebody else in um, to do the survey. But more recently, because I have some of the equipment myself, I just do my own kind of surveys now.
Mhm.
They're not as probably not as thorough as some of the guys that I've used, but yes, I've had two outside guys come in and do surveys on this house in particular. I've had one other guy come in to help me because I've got a dirty electricity problem in the house, which has only been the last 2 years since the neighbours have got solar panels and car charging points. Is putting some dirty electricity onto my line here. So I'm struggling a little bit with those issues and finding it quite hard to filter that out, I must admit.
Okay.
Yeah. But
That's
does Guy Hudson do surveys as well, I heard.
yes, he does.
I've come across him. He's
We'll we'll try and introduce you someday, if we can get on a call, and
oh, that'd
it
be cool,
might
man.
be
You
uh,
know, I know
it's
he's
just
quite
yeah.
knowledgeable. I've read around the subject, so I'm very happy to link up with as many people that are aware as possible. In fact, I'm working with an electrician at the moment who's um, understanding about electrical sensitivity, and he's helping me trying to sort the dirty electricity out here. So we're trying various filters on the mains. So if I have any success with that, I'll let you guys know.
Sure. Guy actually also made his own electricity filter, and
Okay,
he himself is an EHS individual. So,
sure. Okay.
and
Do you know if he uses plugins or if he filters at the mains
it's a plug-in device.
plugin? Yeah, because I've used quite a few different plugins with not great results.
I
So
think
I'm
his
now
one is
looking at
quite
filtering at the mains. Sorry, yeah.
his one is quite great, and might be
Okay.
able to send you free of cost. We'll just ask him regarding that.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, no, I'm very happy to test out any devices,
Hmm.
and I'll be able to tell you quite just with my body. I'll be able to tell you. I don't even need to meter it. I'm so sensitive.
How do you think we can sort of increase awareness about this specific social cause? Do you have any specific ideas that we can implement?
I think locally we can operate locally and internationally. So I mean, on a local level, um, it's literally just trying to tell as many people as possible without scaring them, because that's another thing. People don't want to be scared, but just telling them about your life, how it impacts you, about that these things exist. Then on a national, international level, I mean, it's pretty tricky. I mean, I've been to my MP a few times, and they've gone through the motions of trying to say that they're going to look into it, but they always refer me back to the HPA over here, and the HPA is not helpful. So I don't believe that they are actually looking after people's health, even though they're called the Health Protection Agency. They're just denying it at the moment because it's too big a problem to solve for them. So I don't have a lot of ideas about raising awareness other than, I guess, what you've been mentioning about maybe making videos, films, YouTube clips, trying to get it into the public consciousness with, like you say, movies and stuff like that. It's something that is not an easy thing uh, to get out there because I find, just coming back to an earlier point, is that people don't want their lives to change.
Mhm.
So if you tell people, "Well, listen, all this technology you're using is actually fairly harmful for certain individuals, but also for yourself. they will naturally shut down and say, back off, I don't want to know, because they don't want to change their life. They want to be glued to the screen, smartphones, streaming everything. They don't want to be afraid that something
Is that
that's,
because is there if is that there isn't an alternative, say for example, wireless technology to replace EMF-based technology?
I think you're right. I think more and more our society is become dependent on these technologies that yeah, there's no alternative. So this is what we're doing. It's the electrification of the world. And I didn't sign up for that, but it's happening. Um, and I think that more and more now they're using, like I said to you before, these environmental directives of cleaning up, the fossil fuels. They're using it even more to push the electrification. And that worries me because I can't get an electric car. I can't use an electric bicycle. When they stop manufacturing petrol cars, I'm stuck. Uh, so it's the speed of it that worries me. Of course, now I just read in the newspaper yesterday that they're putting all the exams for schools to be digital on a digital screen. So trying to get rid of paper and pencils as well. I don't want to live in a world like that. So, I find that the pace is increasing now to a level that it's becoming quite hard to mitigate. Um, so I must admit, I'm not in a great headspace right now. Sometimes I'm hopeful, but you know, the last few months I've become quite despondent again about the situation. Um, because I know the suffering there is. I personally know people that can't come out of their house, that are locked in their Faraday cages. They're afraid, they are financially on their knees. Um, and anything else, you could go to the government and say, look, this is, but seemingly they're not interested because of the huge vested interest. So I'm not sure we can talk blue sky thinking and solutions, but I don't have any. I don't have any of the answers right now. I'm just trying to survive personally.
Mhm.
But the only hope I have is the strength in numbers. I think if enough people connect on this issue,
Mhm.
connect with the right investment, the right creative projects, the right medical minds, scientific minds, um, then we become a louder voice and we can't be ignored. So that's possibly this thing because it's so hard to fight alone. You're just like your voice in a cave. You're in an echo chamber, and I think connecting with other people, um, there will become a tipping point, hopefully, where we'll start to make some headway. I mean, my hope is for the future that um, refugee zones will be have to be created um, in areas of natural beauty, specifically for sensitive people that want to go and live without technology,
Mhm.
and that countries will be mandated to create those areas for those vulnerable people.
Yeah.
But I think we're quite a long way off that. But it's my hope to find somewhere that I can go and live with my son without being harassed by this technology, a big enough landmass, a big enough area. Because just trying to rent a detached house in the middle of nowhere and be able to still make a living privately is impossible for somebody like me who find it financially. But my hope is that in the future, with the proliferation of this stuff, there will become safe zones. And obviously, I've looked into West Virginia next to that huge telescope where wireless devices are apparently banned with a certain radius from that telescope. And a lot of ES people have from the US and Canada have gone to live there and have found some respite. So that is because there's the huge telescope that needs radio silence around it in order to detect what they do. So people are going to those extremes of trying to find safe places to live. I would go tomorrow if that was the UK. I would be living in West Virginia trying to find a quiet place to
I
exist.
guess technology has to blend a lot more with nature, and it's sort of that synergy between nature and technology where we'll be able to actually find that that
That
point where
that
humans are. Yeah.
that is an absolutely brilliant point. I think we're on the wrong. The technology now is so invasive. It's like that. Those packets of information are so kind of invasive. Um, if we can look at along the lines that Tesla was working and continue his work and look into ways, like you say, of working in harmony with nature rather than being antagonistic to it. Well, I'm talking a long time in the future because I don't see any of this stuff springing up anytime soon. But when it's realized that it's potentially a carcinogen, um, I mean, it happened with the tobacco industry, and the change was quite dramatic. So, I mean, I was one up, I'm quite hopeful about maybe the hydrogen fuel cell as well, um, giving us a choice so that we don't have to have maybe the electric cars. We can look at the hydrogen, things like that. But you need a lot of money behind those industries. And at the moment, it all seems to be going on uh, electric and wireless devices. But yeah, I think the future is to understand more the harmony between energy forms and natural energy, the environment, living a more harmonious life, which is what it's all about. I mean, that's why we're on this planet. So I agree with you. There is hope for the future, but just right now we're in a bad spot, I think.
And what do you think about these? Well, there's this internet connectivity called Starlink.
I'm unsure about Starlink because I know there's a lot of anxiety around it. I mean, I saw them going up. I look at the night sky, I look at the stuff, and I actually think that I saw some of these satellites going up in a row. It was quite an extraordinary thing in the low atmosphere. Um, I I don't have any evidence that the Starlink affects me.
Hmm.
I think that in theory, having a very fine point and then the satellite broadcasting to the fine point, and then as long as it's not going through the human body, it might not be a bad thing. I don't know. A much worse thing is to have the cell towers broadcasting everywhere on sort of that plane. The Starlink, I'm obviously worried about it, but my understanding is that when the energy from the satellite connects with a dish or a node, that it's quite a concentrated beam from directly from the sky. And obviously, if gets in the way of that beam, it could be an absolute nightmare.
Hmm.
I don't know how big the radius is around the nodes. I haven't really looked into it. I've kind of anything with Elon Musk, I sort of roll my eyes. But um, yeah, I guess watch this space. I need to do a little bit more research about Starlink, but I know it's taken off in a big way.
Yep. Although it's still based on EMF technology, so that's
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's the worry there. That's the worry there. So what's your story? Are you sensitive yourself, Devansh, or
I'm sort
why did you
of
start the Fique? How did that come about?
so Fique started as a clothing brand. We were sort
Okay,
of researching into the harmful impacts of technology,
right.
and we sort of came across EMF as a large social cause.
Okay,
And I
okay,
was interested in technology just as a hobby since a young age.
right, right.
And
Cool,
we sort of built the clothing brand, and now we have a foundation that conducts research and development into EMF protective mechanisms and alternative technologies.
cool, man. Oh, that's great. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll definitely follow more closely what you guys are up to. And if you want me to test anything or help in any way, I'm here. We can schedule another Zoom call. I'm gonna have to go in a minute to
Hmm.
get something. Um, if you want to schedule another Zoom call or run something past me, get me to test something or connect me up with someone, I'm very happy to be involved because I think you guys are part of the solution. not the problem. And it's just nice to connect with people wanting to do something good in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very happy to be involved and just yeah, stay in touch.
Yes, and we'll be happy to try and send you the DE filters and some of the clothing that we have complimentary for you to try out. And
Oh, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. I'll give them a go. As I say, the clothing that I tested was many years ago, silver mesh kind of fabric.
mhm.
But I'm very happy to, yeah, be happy to receive that, and particularly the filters. And I'm always looking at different ways of filtering. So yeah, I mean, fantastic. And happy to, and moreover, if they work, the filters I'm very happy to promote what you guys are doing because it's a huge problem. And as I say, the clothing that I've come across so far hasn't really helped me. So if I find something that works, I'm like, I'll be your biggest fan, sort of thing. So, but I'll be honest with you about that.
Mhm.
Yeah, cool,
Uh,
man.
it was great talking to you, and we'll be in contact soon.
Great.